I have to say, the premise of the research we're covering today is, well, it's aggressive. It doesn't exactly ease you in.
No, it certainly doesn't. It just kicks the door down.
It starts with a question that feels almost dangerous to ask. The source text just lays it out there. What exactly is God that he deserves to be worshipped?
And the follow-up is even more pointed, really.
Yeah. What exactly are human beings that worship is demanded of them?
It's a fundamental provocation. We're looking at a text by William Chittick today, and he's dissecting the Islamic concept of worship. But he isn't starting with the standing, the bowing, the chanting.
He starts with the what?
He starts with the what. He defines worship in a way that sounds almost clinical. He calls it the appropriate human response to the divine.
Which sounds like a physics equation. Action and reaction.
In a way, it is. If you understand the variables, who God is and who you are, worship isn't some choice you make on a Friday. It's the only logical result of that equation.
But, I mean, to get there, we have to deal with the language. Because the English translation hides a lot of the volatility.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're talking about the root word, ābādah.
ʿibādah.
And depending on which translator you're reading, the person doing the worshiping, the abd, is translated as either servant or slave.
And those two words are not synonyms.
Yeah.
Not at all. They live in different universes. Servant has a certain dignity to it.
Yeah.
You know, you serve a higher cause.
Right. But slave, that implies force.
Right.
Zero agency. It's heavy.
It is heavy. And Chittick points out that this isn't just some messy translation issue. It's a theological battleground. The translators who insist on slave aren't trying to be cruel.
No, they're trying to be precise about power.
Explain that a bit.
Well, think about it. If God is omnipotent, all-powerful, then by definition you have no independent power. You are earned by the reality that created you.
Ah.
So if you translate it as servant, you might imply that you're what? A volunteer.
Ugh.
Or that you could quit if the benefits package isn't good enough. Slave cements the ontological reality. You belong to him.
That is a hard pill for a modern individualist to swallow. We'd love to think of ourselves as free agents.
Exactly. But the servant translation, it captures the other side of the coin, which is responsibility. A slave is forced, a servant has a job to do, a servant has agency to do the job well or do it poorly.
So the text is suggesting we are both.
We are living in the tension between the two. And that is the mission of this deep dive, really. We're trying to bridge the gap between two key Arabic terms the source highlights, ʿibādah and ʿubūdiyyah.
They sound similar, but I get the sense the distinction is everything.
It is. Ībādah is the act. It's what the jurists and the lawyers of religion focus on. Did you pray? Did you fast? Did you pay the charity?
It's the external compliance. You can photograph ībādah.
You can. But ʿubūdiyyah, that's servanthood. That is the state of being. It's the internal quality of the person performing the act. You can have perfect ībādah, perfect form, perfect recitation, and have zero ūbūdiyyah if your heart is, rotten or arrogant.
So ībādah is the technician, and ūbūdiyyah is the artist.
Or maybe ībādah is the body, and ūbūdiyyah is the soul. The source uses a specific verse from the Qur'an as the nexus point where these two meet. It's from the Al-Fatihah.
Thee alone we worship, and from thee alone we seek help.
Exactly. I mean, you've heard that verse 1,000 times, right? It seems so straightforward.
Yeah.
But look closer at the structure. Thee alone we worship. That is the human proclaiming their job. That's the ībādah. We're doing the work. But immediately, in the same breath, from thee alone we seek help.
It circles right back.
It admits we can't even perform the worship without the divine fueling us. It acknowledges that even our effort is a gift from him. It just cuts the legs out from under the ego.
Right. You can't take credit for being a good servant because the master provided the energy for the service in the first place.
Exactly. And that moves us away from the legalistic view, that whole I did my duty, now give me my reward mindset, into something much more fluid.
And much more dangerous for the ego.
Legal scholars, the jurists, they like boundaries. This is God's share, this is my share.
Okay.
The spiritual authorities, the Sufis, they just blur those lines. They argue you can't separate the doing from the being. And this brings us to the concept that really anchors this entire text. Haq.
Hack. It's a massive word.
It is untranslatable in a single word. It means truth, it means reality, but it also means right or do. Like when you say give him his rights.
Wait, so in this worldview, truth and rights are the same word.
Yes, and that is crucial. Think about gravity. Gravity is a reality hack. And because it's real, it has a hack over you. It demands you respect it.
So if you walk off a cliff ignoring gravity, you aren't just breaking a rule, you're clashing with reality itself.
Precisely. So worship isn't about appeasing some deity who needs compliments. It's about aligning yourself with the way things actually are. The source quotes this famous interaction where the Prophet Muhammad asks a companion, "Do you know God's hack over his servants?"
And then he asks the reverse.
And "Do you know the servant's hack over God?" I love that it's a two-way street. It's a contract.
Well, that's the deal.
God's hack, his right, is that they worship him and associate nothing with him. Basically, that they acknowledge reality. In return, the servant has a hack over God, that he will not punish those who stick to that deal.
Okay, but associating nothing. That sounds like the standard don't worship idols rule. We know the basics of monotheism.
In the theory sense, yes, that's the first half of the testimony of faith, the Shahada. There is no God but God. That states the reality. But the text argues that just knowing the reality isn't enough.
You can know gravity exists and still crash the plane if you don't know how to fly.
Exactly, and that's where the second half comes in. Muhammad is God's messenger. That provides the method, the how-to. He tells you the specific ways to align with that reality. If you have the theory but not the method, well, the source uses a pretty brutal analogy.
The donkey. Like a donkey in a mill. It's such a tragic image. You have this creature, it's walking in circles, grinding the grain, it's sweating, it's exerting effort, it's traveling miles and miles.
But it ends the day exactly where it started. All that movement, but no progress. The prophet warned that a worshiper without knowledge, without the intellect, the aql, engaged, is just spinning their wheels.
So you can't just feel your way through this. You have to actually use your brain.
Well, Jafar al-Sadiq, one of the great scholars, mentioned, he says you cannot separate intellect from worship. He defines intellect as that by which the all-merciful is worshipped. If your mind isn't engaged in understanding why you were doing what you were doing, your body is just a machine, a biological robot, really.
Okay, so let's assume I'm not a donkey. I have the knowledge, I know the reality, I know the method, I'm doing the rituals, I should be safe.
You would hope so. But this is where the text takes a sharp turn into psychology. Because even if you are doing everything right on the outside, there is a trap on the inside that is arguably worse than not doing it at all.
And we're talking about sincerity, or the lack of it.
We're talking about hidden shirk.
Now, most of our listeners know shirk as polytheism, worshiping Zeus or a golden calf.
Yeah.
But hidden shirk, that implies something a bit more subtle.
The prophet famously said he feared hidden shirk for his community more than he feared the Antichrist.
That is a staggering statement. I mean, the Antichrist is the ultimate embodiment of evil in eschatology.
Yeah.
Why is this specific internal flaw scarier than that?
Because the Antichrist is an external enemy. You can see him. Hidden shirk is eye service. It's inside you. It's when you perform the prayer and you do it beautifully with perfect posture and recitation.
Specifically because you know someone is watching you.
Exactly. So the act is technically for God, but the motive is for the audience. And in that moment, who is your God?
It's the audience.
It's the audience. Their opinion is what you are serving. Their validation is what you are chasing. You've associated a partner with God, but it's so subtle. You've made your neighbor or your boss into a little deity. Ibn Atta, another scholar cited here, he just cuts to the bone. He says, shirk is that you see loss or gain from other than him. If you genuinely believe your boss holds the keys to your happiness or your destruction,
then you are, in a functional sense, worshiping your boss. You are in awe of their power.
This reminds me of that quote from Abu Ali al-Dakwak in the text. It gave me chills.
Which one?
You are the servant of him in whose bondage and prison you are.
It's a diagnostic tool, isn't
Yeah.
it? Look at what stresses you out. Look at what you are terrified of losing. That is your prison.
And if you are in its prison, you are its servant.
And for, I'd say, 99% of us, that prison isn't a statue of a pagan god.
No, it's the self. It's the hawa, the whim, the ego. If you are driven by your moods, your desire for status, your need to be right, you're worshiping yourself. You've made your own ego into a little false god.
That is bleak. Because I think everyone listening can identify a moment today where they serve their own ego. So how do we break out? The source outlines a kind of roadmap to realization.
It does. It points to two giants of the tradition, al-Muhasibi and al-Ghazali. They are the doctors for the specific disease.
Al-Muhasibi focuses on taqwa, right? Which is usually translated as fear of God, but that feels a bit simplistic.
Wariness is better, or God consciousness. Al-Muhasibi says the first step is simply realizing you are a vassal. You don't own yourself. It's a constant hyper-aware state of checking your pockets Wait, am I acting for God right now or for my reputation?
It's mindfulness, but with much higher stakes.
Exactly. And then comes Al-Ghazali. He's the system builder. He takes this anxiety about hidden shirk and offers a solution that integrates it into just normal life. He argues that everything can be worship.
Everything. Like eating lunch.
If the intention is right, yes. Al-Ghazali divides life into quarters. You have the rituals, sure, but then he has a whole section on customary practices. Eating, sleeping, marriage, commerce.
How does commerce become worship?
By observing they hack the rights within it. If you conduct business honestly, because God commanded honesty, that transaction is worship. If you treat your spouse with kindness because they have a God-given right to be treated well, your marriage is worship.
That actually relieves a lot of the pressure. It means you don't have to go live in a cave to be a full-time servant.
You just have to change the orientation of your daily grind.
Right. It turns the mundane into the sacred. It moves worship from something I do for 10 minutes to the operating system of my life.
And this is where the source material really threw me for a loop. Even that is still a moral struggle. You are trying to be a servant. The text ends by shifting gears entirely into metaphysics. We meet Ibn Arabi.
The greatest master, as he's known. This is where we leave the moral imperative.
And enter the ontological imperative.
Okay, use small words for me here. What is the difference?
The moral imperative is, you should worship. The ontological imperative is, you are worshiping.
Whether I want to or not.
Whether you admit it or not. Ibn Arabi looks at the cosmos. God says be. Kun and the universe exists. That is the engendering command. Everything in the universe, atoms, stars, trees, cats, is obeying that command simply by existing.
So a rock is worshiping God just by being a rock.
Yes, it is submitted to the laws of its creation. It is, technically speaking, Muslim, submitted to God's will. It cannot be anything other than what God told it to be.
And this applies to us too.
To your biology, yes. Your heartbeat is worshiping God. It's following the program. Your cells dividing, that's worship. You are a compelled servant in your physical existence. You have no choice.
So if I'm already worshiping with every heartbeat, why all the drama about heaven and hell and choice?
Because humans are unique. We live under two commands. We have the engendering command, our biology, which we can't resist, but we also have the prescriptive command.
The revelation, the do this, don't do that.
And that one, we can veto. We can say no. We can't say no to gravity, but we can say no to honesty. We can say no to prayer. This is the human paradox. We are the only creatures who can rebel against our own nature.
So what is the goal then? If we're already servants biologically, what's the point of the spiritual path?
The goal, according to Ibn Arabi, is to become the perfect servant al-insan al-kamil. And that means aligning your choice with your nature.
To stop fighting yourself.
To voluntarily choose to be what you already legally are. It's bringing your I want into total alignment with the realities I want. When you do that, you stop being a fragmented mess of contradictions and become a sheer servant.
It completely reframes the definition of freedom, doesn't it? We usually think freedom is just doing whatever I feel like.
But if what you feel like is just a whim, the hawa, then you're just a slave to a mood. Real freedom, in this view, is being released from the tyranny of the ego and aligning with the real.
It implies that the Prophet Muhammad wasn't the top guy because he was a king, but because he was the ultimate servant.
That is his highest title, his servant and his messenger. Servant comes first. He was the one whose will was completely transparent to God's will. No friction.
This has been a heavy dive.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone from a linguistic debate about slaves and servants through the terrifying psychology of eye service, all the way to this cosmic view where existence itself is worship.
It changes how you walk down the street. It's not just, am I doing my religious duties? It asks you to look at reality differently.
And it leaves us with a pretty haunting realization. There's no neutral gear.
No. That's the takeaway. You are built to serve. You are wired for devotion. Energy flows somewhere. Attention flows somewhere.
So you are technically worshiping something right now, whether it's the algorithm on your phone, the anxiety in your chest about the future, or the divine.
You are a servant by nature. You don't get to choose if you serve. The only choice you actually have is which master are you going to serve?
And is that master worthy of you? That's the question we're leaving you with. Check your prisons, check your rights, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.